It's the internet, you're busy. Let's do this for July 15th, 2024 for the next hour or so. Let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, we get an update on a beloved franchise that may disappoint its fans, and Nintendo may do something surprising with its next Zelda game. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host of Game Mess Mornings. It's Emma Fife, everybody. Emma, how are you doing?
I'm just great. It's very warm, I would say in Los Angeles, but truly all over the country.
Everywhere, yes.
It's just a terrible time. But, you know, it's just prepping me for when I go to Japan in a few weeks in the summer. Not the time I would choose to go, but if somebody else is paying for me to go, then who am I to say no?
Exactly, yeah. You got to go endure it if someone else is paying, for sure.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Jan is actually in Japan this week. He's having a good time. He'll be back next week. It's going to be a fun one because I think Bacalar's also out, and I think Dan's got some time off later this week. So I'm running the shop, and I'm going to do some crazy stuff. I don't know what that means, but I'll come up with something. So I'm looking forward to all that. You are getting ready for Comic-Con, though. How's that been?
I am, yeah. I am waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Sure.
I've been talking with Hayner over at Gamespot on the entertainment editorial team, and he and I are both kind of like, this is going really smoothly. We're so busy. Like, we're so booked and busy. And our press suite is going to be crazy, which Jan is going to be helping run with myself and some others. But yeah, it's just like, I truly am like, when is something going to go horribly, terribly wrong? Because so far it's been really good.
You just wait till you're there in the thick of it, then that's when something will go wrong for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it always does.
Exactly.
You can't prepare for these.
No way.
Like I'm the kind of person that I go into every production being like, well, something's gonna go wrong, so I'm just gonna roll with it when it does.
That sounds right. Hey, and at least you'll be in San Diego, a town that I enjoy. That was
exactly. Yeah, it's very, very pleasant down there. And at least I will be in a press suite with air conditioning all day and not running around to appointments, which is really nice.
Exactly. In terms of games, this week is a pretty exciting one for me. It's college football drops this week, and then so does NES World Championships, which I've been waiting for. It comes out, I think it comes out the 18th. I got to keep remembering that Nintendo doesn't do the Friday releases anymore.
No, they're on the
Thursday.
Thursday train
so that
also.
Means Wednesday night we might have it.
Usually like 9:00 Pacific time, so like midnight East Coast.
Yeah, so midnight Eastern we might have it. So I'm going to be playing this game in like 2 days. That's incredible. I'm so excited. So those are the two games I've really been looking forward to. Want to spend some time with both. We should have a chance to play some college football during the week. Is that out early? I think college football's out. I'm asking chat now for the college football fans that might be in chat. I know the release date was like later this week, but I think there was maybe an early access period that people might start playing today. And if that's the case, we'll get our hands on that and try to play it earlier in the week so everyone can get a look at that. Because it's the first time they've made one of these games in 10, 11 years or something like that. And a lot of excitement around it, so looking forward to it. Early is tomorrow. Thank you, Purple People Eater. Okay, well then we'll get it on the website as best we can. Let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings, or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with Crash Bandicoot artist claims a fifth game was canceled. This is from Andy Robinson at VGC. A former Toys for Bob artist has claimed that a fifth Crash Bandicoot game was canceled at the studio. Concept artist Nicholas Cole made the claim in a Twitter thread this weekend in which they shared news that a separate project they'd been working on with another studio called Project Dragon had been canceled. Responding to fans speculating that the project could be related to Spyro due to its codename, Cole said that it was not, but claimed that a version of Crash 5 had been canceled. It is not Spyro, but someday folks will hear about the Crash 5 that never was, and it's going to break hearts, they wrote. In another reply, Cole claimed that Project Dragon and Crash 5 were two totally separate canceled projects at two totally separate different studios. Crash Bandicoot developer Toys for Bob split from Activision this year following Microsoft's acquisition of the Call of Duty publisher. The studio later revealed it had signed a publishing agreement with Microsoft for its next game. Speculation around that is that it could be Spyro related. Yeah, this is a bit of a bummer that they were like, there was Crash 5 following up the kind of critically beloved Crash 4. I know a lot of fans really like that game. I like that game, and I don't really like playing a lot of Crash games. I think Crash.
Loved Crash 4.
Crash 4 is really good.
And so I was Crash Bandicoot. I was a PlayStation kid. I played so much Crash Bandicoot 2, and Crash Team Racing, which is the Crash Bandicoot equivalent of Mario Kart.
And it's great.
It's really fun. It's really, really fun. And then, Crash 4, I remember, it had been a while since I picked up a Crash game, and I picked it up, and the thing that was crazy to me was that it was really, really, really fun platforming in the kind of wacky way that Crash does it, which is typically, it kind of shifts between the 2.5D and the 3D, view from behind going down. And then, of course, who could ever forget being chased by boulders and dinosaurs? I mean, I love Crash Bandicoot. And Tom Payne, you don't have to explain what Crash Team Racing is to this audience. Thank you. I find that, there's a lot of very young people that work in the gaming industry that watch gaming things, and they're all like, we don't know what anything is but League of Legends. And I'm like, okay.
Wrong button, everybody. Sorry. I'm trying to get the headlines on, and I have the wrong headlines. I have the Jan headlines. They're separate Turbo Sean headlines that I need to be focused on. You know what? We got to leave that up because otherwise it's going to play the intro again. Sean's going to send it to me on Slack right now. But yeah, no. So you play Crash 4. You really liked it?
I loved Crash 4.
It's really good.
It's really good. I remember I was streaming it, and on that first boss, it took me a little while to figure out how you do the boss, because that's the thing that's fun about it, is that all the levels and the boss fights, they all have something about them, and it's once you figure it out, it's oh, okay, now I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know, it makes me sad because I thought Crash 4 was stupendous, and it would be nice to see them keep building on the ideas that they had in that game, because I thought it was very fresh.
And my thinking was that I know the Crash Insane Trilogy remakes did very well. I know those games. I know that game sold a ton. I thought Crash 4 didn't do that well, but I thought it did pretty well compared to that. I thought it was several million copies. Maybe most of those were at discount sales. I don't know. I haven't really kept track. But in my memory, I'm like, no, I thought Crash 4 did all right. And then I think usually it turns out when I think these games do even a little bit better than that. I thought it was Tony Hawk did really well, and Crash 4 did pretty good as well. I could see them being the Crash 5 game is canceled or never really got started in the first place. It's always murky with game development, as I remember the Dead Space 2 thing where it was I'm like, oh yeah, that game canceled, shelved, or whatever. When I'm like, they never started it. I'm like, okay, they were thinking about it though, and I think it was the same thing here. They were probably thinking about it, looking at what they were going to do next, and we could go right to Crash 5, but we just did the Insane Trilogy, and then we did Crash 4. Let's give this franchise some breathing room, work on some other stuff in the meantime, and that probably is what led to the current thing where Toys for Bob is making maybe a Spyro game, and again, maybe they're making a Spyro game. We don't really know. And hopefully they come back to Crash. I say hopefully they'll inevitably come back to Crash Bandicoot, right? Crash Bandicoot's not going to disappear forever. It did well enough at least to justify a return at some point. Just the immediate Crash 5 is probably what we're not getting, right?
Yeah, I think there's room on the PlayStation for multiple mascots, because I always thought of Crash as kind of being the PlayStation's mascot. Now, obviously, it's Astro.
Yes, and Crash is now an Xbox mascot because Xbox owns it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Bizarre world we live in.
So weird.
Yeah, but it's so okay. So then, if we have a Crash 5, do you think that it can kind of continue what they were doing in Crash 4, or does it need to be rethought once again? Because I'm I think more Crash 4 is kind of what I'm okay with.
think more, yeah, I was going to say, I think more Crash 4. It's in some ways similar to, and, you know, we talked about this at length. Obviously, though, Crash 4 was a complete game, whereas Astro was a pre-pack that was surprisingly robust for being a pre-pack,
for sure,
but was not a full game experience. So I think that, again, it's like, we just want more Astro, we just want more Crash.
Yep. And I think that, yes, and I think they can probably look around and see what's working for Astro and recent Mario games, but Crash has always been its own thing. So if they want to just make more Crash 4 as Crash 5, I would be happy. I just hope it doesn't take like, you know, with game development taking longer and longer, I hope it doesn't get to a point where it's like, oh yeah, we're 6-7 years later, and I guess maybe we'll do a Crash 5 now. Does anyone care anymore? I hope they could find some way to hit these things like every 3 to 4 years. You know, and there was a time when it was like we were getting them every year without fail, and a lot of those were bad in that time for the Activision days.
But I will also say that as far as Crash 4 goes, again, I had not touched a Crash Bandicoot since OG Crash Bandicoot 2 on the PlayStation, and I think that I wasn't entirely alone in that. It was a lot of people going, oh, well, Crash Bandicoot's kind of back on my radar here, especially with the Insane trilogy. You're doing really, really well. So I think that, you know, because part of me is saying, oh, okay, is it going to be another 7 years until we get a new Crash game? Is Crash obsolete at that point? And the answer is, I don't think so.
Yeah, agreed. So we'll see what happens with Crash 5, canceled for now. You know, put on the shelf for now. That's not going to last forever. But you know, for the Crash Bandicoot fans out there, I bet your day will come once again. And for the rest of you, if you haven't played Crash Bandicoot 4, go fix that. That's the one where, like,
highly recommend.
I was like, I don't like Crash, fun. Mike. And Mike's like, no, I think you'll like Crash 4. And I tried. I'm like, okay, you were right. This is the good one. They finally made a good one. Now I like Crash Bandicoot enough, but
no, 4 is really excellent.
Absolutely. All right, this next one, here you go. This is the headline from Ollie Welsh at Polygon. Excuse me, princess. Link will be playable in Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Well done, Ollie. It's not often that Link's gallantry is called into question, but today is one of those sad days. After 38 years of hogging the limelight, the hero in green has finally ceded the starring role in the Legend of Zelda game to Princess Zelda herself, who will be the playable protagonist of The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. But mere weeks after her big moment was announced, it's been revealed that Link couldn't help himself and is crashing Zelda's party. He'll be playable in the game too. The news has emerged from an ESRB listing from the game, rating the game E for everyone. The ESRB noted that this is an adventure game in which players assume the role of Zelda as she attempts to dispel rifts through Hyrule and rescue Link. From a 3/4 overhead perspective, players explore various environments while fighting stylized enemies like humans and creatures. Then the ESRB dropped the bombshell. As Link, players use a sword and arrows to defeat enemies. Zelda can use magic wand to summon creatures like wind-up knights, pig soldiers, slime for battle. This is making headlines like across a bunch of like Nintendo websites and stuff like Polygon. But I think we might have already seen it because there is that intro moment in the trailer where Link runs into the dungeon to save Zelda, and I bet you actually play that moment, and that's maybe the extent of it.
Yeah, that may be the extent. Look, the only way that I could see this being fun and cool instead of it being like, come on, y'all, you've played as Link a bazillion times. We don't need to play as Link. Right. The way I could see this being fun and cool is if there was like a parallel storyline of like Link trying to escape the Negaverse or wherever the heck he is. But yeah, I mean, but again, it's like this was a game I didn't know I needed, but I love that Link's Awakening Switch remake. I was about to say DS. What year is it?
I would have played a Link's Awakening remake on the DS for sure.
I do like that. I loved the Link Between Worlds DS game. That was really, really fun.
Fantastic.
It's so good. But yeah, I loved that little Link. So I was so cute. Oh my God. I remember their E3 displays where they actually had little dioramas of the stages. It was so amazing.
Very cute. Yep.
Yeah, it's so cute. And I think this is a great way to get Zelda in on the action. Long overdue.
Yeah, I mean, from the beginning, I love that when they announced this, it's like, oh, Echoes of Wisdom, and she was her thing was the Triforce piece of wisdom,
right?
And things like that. And It even got me like looking at that old CDI game where you play as Zelda.
Wand of Gamelon.
Yeah, there's Wand of Gamelon, and then there's
another one though too.
There's three actually. The third one is like the top down, like real kind of. It plays like a Zelda game, but you play as Zelda, and it's very weird. Yeah, there's
Faces of Evil and Zelda's Adventure.
Zelda's Adventure is the one I'm thinking of. Yes, Dr. Randall. And I was looking at that. There were fan remakes of like Wand of Gamelon and Faces of Evil that like make those games kind of like okay,
playable.
Yes. And then I don't know if they have the same thing for Zelda's Adventure, but I might track that down. We'll see. All right, let's keep moving here. The first Bioshock 4 images has reportedly appeared online. This is from Andy Robinson of VGC. An early mid-development image of Bioshock 4 has repeatedly been shared online, showing an early glimpse at the 2K sequel's UI design. The image, published by MP First, is said to originate from a work reel belonging to a 2K visual effect artist, which hasn't been linked to protect their privacy. Notably, the images feature the codename Parkside, which was referenced by journalist Colin Moriarty back in 2021, in which he revealed alleged details on the new Bioshock game, including its setting. 2K First announced back in December 2019 that work had begun on a new entry in the Bioshock series, but it has been tight-lipped about the project in the years since. The game is being created by 2K's new Cloud Chamber studio, which was established especially for the project in 2K's San Francisco Bay Area headquarters in California, as well as in Montreal, Quebec. Cloud Chamber's team includes a number of Bioshock veterans, including design director Jonathan Pelling and creative director Hoagie de la Plante. I'll get this picture up here for everybody to see in a second. There's not much to it. Mostly, I just wanted to like check in and like, what do you think is happening with Bioshock 4? Because we heard last week that there was like a job posting that was like, hey, we're looking for someone to come in and design some stuff, and whenever people read this, see that, myself included, it's like, oh, I thought you'd be way further than needing someone to come in and do this job. But also, game development's so messy. Who knows if that's what it means? Do you think we see Bioshock 4 anytime soon? And does like a image from like maybe 2021 do anything for you?
Does an image from 2021 do anything for me? No.
Yeah.
I think, look, if it's anytime soon, I would say summer 2026.
Yeah.
Maybe. I think would be the soon, especially as you say, the coming in to do design work. I mean, that can also be a later stage thing of, ooh, you know what? Here's something we're testing in this game. It's kind of like when you're making a movie and you're like, you know what? It's really missing a scene that establishes the relationship between these characters better. Maybe it's something like that. Game development doesn't work quite the same way, but
sure.
I don't know.
I'm with you. Where it's like wait, let me reset this. There we go. People can see this image, and so it does show like the character looking up at like some sort of obelisk, some sort of like temple thing where there's a glowing light at the top of a structure, a glowing ball of fire, maybe. Okay, well, people can read into that what they want, but we also do see the UI, the UX design, and I would say there's almost no way it looks like this all these years later. It's probably had several revisions and mostly changed. And UX is all about like, the very fine specific details, and that stuff just wouldn't be settled at this point. So yeah, I think at the very least, the fact that like this happened and I saw a bunch of headlines about it shows that there's still a strong thirst for information, and there's a lot of just overall desire for a new Bioshock game. Something that's like, I don't think it's guaranteed. At a certain point, people just put that in the back of their mind and they forget about it. And like, yeah, I don't know. At one point I cared about Bioshock, but I don't anymore. It seems like people still at the very least care about Bioshock and are perking up when they're like, they see even a little bit of, a tiny little crumb like this. Is the world still going to be like ready for, or is Bioshock going to be ready for how the world is going to, take it in a couple of years? Like, will Bioshock still be a big deal when it comes out, do you think?
I mean, I think there are people who are Bioshock heads. I think it'll be a big deal to the existing fans of the franchise. It's becoming so difficult, I feel, to be cross everything relevant.
Yeah.
I feel like it's very difficult to reach people outside of your core fan base in general.
Yep. And
I would put Bioshock in that category.
Yeah, and it's the gaming industry has grown so much since like 2007, and then when was like 2012 for Bioshock Infinite, and then Bioshock 2 between those two. There's so much has changed, and it is so different. And I remember thinking at the time when Bioshock Infinite came along, Bioshock Infinite is like one of those games that made me sort of look around and be like, does this whole industry make sense? Because they spent so long on this game, and it obviously cost so much money, and they could have taken several more years developing it to obviously complete some of these features that they had to cut. This seems unsustainable. And now we have this new game that's taking even longer, and it's probably going to be even more expensive. And is it going to be able to hit even as hard as Bioshock Infinite did? I don't know. That's still a big question. So it's questionable.
Bioshock Infinite sold decently well.
Yes.
But again, it's at the point that we're getting a new Bioshock game, it is a completely different market than Bioshock Infinite went into.
Yep. Definitely. And I just wonder if it's the kind of thing where this game is going to come out, and most people would be like, yeah, I mean, that's great, but I'm like already playing a bunch of free-to-play games with my friends, or some people will show up, but it's like, is it going to be 5 million or is it going to be 15 million? And there's a massive difference, obviously, between those two. And I remember, Bioshock Infinite, it was like, is this game a success unless it sells like 12 million copies? Is that the only way it could be a success? And now it feels like even the bar is even higher for something like this at this point. But hey, but people like Bioshock, I hope this one's good. Hope it comes out and hits the mark for a lot of people. All right, let's hit this next quick story here. Sony Interactive Entertainment announces ChinaJoy 2024 lineup. This is from Sal Romano at Gamatsu. Sony Interactive Entertainment has announced its lineup for ChinaJoy 2024, which will run from July 26th through the 29th at Shanghai New International Expo Center in Shanghai, China. The company's full lineup of playable titles is as follows. They have a PlayStation China Hero project, which I think is them teaming up with local, domestic developers in China. And there's several games there, none that are recognized. Stuff like Daba, Land of the Water Scar, and Evo Tinction. Yeah, that's a good name right there. I actually really like Evo Tinction. I don't know how to say it, but I like it. But for first party games, they will have Astrobot, Helldivers 2, Horizon Forbidden West, and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. And then they have a bunch of third party games. I think this kind of just shows a couple things that, for one, they have a new first party game that they're showing off. It is the new first party game that they have across the board, Astrobot. And they don't have much else there. And then they have some older games that probably aren't out in China because of regulatory processes slowing those things up, or maybe localization as well. Probably a combination of those two things. But they are showing up and doing an event in China, showing a bunch of games. I do wonder if this is like the new strategy at Sony, because I was talking to someone else somewhere. I think I was doing my a Q&A over the weekend, and someone mentioned like, oh, they're going to be a Tokyo Game Show. Is this Sony's new direction of showing up to these events, where Jim Ryan maybe didn't always like doing that? Because it seemed like when Jim Ryan was in charge, that's when they pulled out of E3, and there was no more like PlayStation experience and things like that. And now he's gone, and it's like they're right back in doing these events. Do you think this is the kind of thing where Sony is trying to, while they don't have a ton of games to show off, go out and do like a public outreach in person? And do you think that can make a difference for them?
I definitely think it is them trying to go out and do public outreach in person. Because again, and I mean, it kind of goes back in some ways to what we were talking about with Bioshock. It's that like the gaming market is so oversaturated now. So anything you can do to try to reach new markets is something that you are going to be doing. You have to at this point. And if they don't really make a mark in the Chinese gaming marketplace this way, then I'd be curious to see what they do in the future. But this is definitely, especially as with something like Helldivers, which has had such a big. I mean, obviously, there's been all the drama over it being pulled from the Steam store in different regions that don't have PlayStation and blah blah blah. But again, they're in a position wherein they have to, because I mean, this is such an eclectic mix of games that they're bringing to this show. So I think they're just casting a wide net and seeing what fish they catch.
Yeah, and if this, it feels like a distinction between what they're doing in Europe, where Gamescom, they aren't showing up to Gamescom, and it's like, well, they've dominated Europe, and they could soar, they really can soar on their momentum on that continent, because there is not a lot of other competition. Like we had a story last week about Microsoft kind of like limiting what they're going to be doing in EMEA territories. And so, Europe, Middle East, and Africa is like, Xbox just may just say, hey, don't even worry about getting a console. Here's other ways of playing Xbox games. So Sony's like, well, that maybe that's a waste of money to show up to Gamescom. Now, China is a huge, massive, untapped market.
Yes, it is.
It goes back and forth between the United States and China in terms of spending on video games. And in several of the recent years, China was close to number one, if not number one. And they're probably going to be number one, going into the future, especially if their economy rebounds here in the next several years.
Is China a console market the way that Japan is?
No, not really.
PC market.
PC, mobile.
Mobile. I know it's a mobile market.
Yes. Definitely. They basically had regulation in place for a very long time that made releasing consoles in the country almost impossible. At least in the in the way that these companies would have been comfortable with. That would lead to things like the I think it was called the IQ, which was a N64 controller that you plug directly into a TV and could play N64 games.
Yes, I vaguely recall that.
Yes, and that would happen like during, I think it was like during like the GameCube years that Nintendo would release that in China, so they would be behind. That's all changed. Those regulations are well, they go. That's the sort of rubber bands where sometimes it's like much less of a blockage for these companies to get into China. But then there's still a lot of regulations about releasing the specific games, where there's a massive backlog of trying to get stuff approved. Because if you don't get explicit approval from the government in China, you can't release those games. At least that's how it is at the moment. So at the very least, though, Sony and Nintendo and Microsoft to a certain extent, I'm sure, all see China as a market of like, if we can make some of this work, all of those headaches will be worth it. So I expect Sony Interactive Entertainment to be at ChinaJoy for the foreseeable future. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we have updates on the Driver franchise, multiple updates on that as well, and what's up with the Concord beta right after this. All right, we are back, and we're getting right back into it. As promised, Ubisoft says it's actively working on the Driver franchise. This is from Andy Robinson of VGC. Plans for a live-action series based on Ubisoft franchise Driver have been shelved, the company has confirmed. And actually, real quick, I'll just hit that from Stephen Totillo. Ubisoft nixed the Driver show. He reported on this on his game file email service you could sign up for. A live action series based on Ubisoft's open world car franchise Driver, announced back in 2021, is not happening, at least not as originally planned. With the upstart streaming service Binge, GameFile can exclusively confirm, we are no longer moving forward with our partnership with Binge for a Driver series, a Ubisoft rep told me this week. There were plenty of red flags about the project already, given that the gaming-centric Binge was expected to launch in 2022, but most recently in late 2023 was telling its social media followers that we are alive, well, charged up, and preparing for launch. And that never happened. All right, so but that does not mean the Driver franchise is done. The company has claimed it's still planning projects related to the series despite no major game release in over a decade. Ubisoft announced back in 2021 that it had partnered with upstart streaming service Binge for the series. However, the company told GameFile on Friday that it's now not moving ahead with the company. The discovery was made after Ubisoft disclosed that one of its movie/video related subsidiaries, Hot Rod Tanner LLC, named after the protagonist for the Driver series. Hot Rod Tanner's a great name for someone who drives cars.
Yeah, it's a really good name.
That was dissolved in January, that Hot Rod Tanner LLC, which was going to oversee the Driver show. We are no longer moving forward with our partnership with Binge. This is back over at VGC with Andy Robinson. But we are actively working on other exciting projects related to the franchise and can't wait to share more information in the future, a rep said. Earlier this month, Ubisoft confirmed that production had begun on a Watch Dogs movie starring Sophie Wilde and Tom Blythe, and from director Matthew Turry, who did The Deep Dark. The Driver franchise, you ever played this much? I only played a very tiny bit of Driver, which was kind of I can't remember how Driver 1 went, but eventually, like Driver 2, you could get out of the car and take other people's cars. So it was like open world crime game, sort of like GTA, but with a different tone. Yeah, it was.
Yes.
It had its fans. I know that.
Yeah, I think we maybe rented OG Driver because it was on PlayStation. Like I played a lot of PS1 games because we would just go to Blockbuster and rent whatever. And I feel like we played this a little tiny bit and I went, this is boring. I was a kid, you know?
Yep. Yeah. They supported the franchise for a while. There was Driver 2, and I remember Driver 3 being very hyped up and being on magazine covers and things like that. And then Driver San Francisco, which I never even really looked at. People are in the chat are saying I would like it. I'll play a Driver game. I don't care. I was always more of a stuntman guy. Give me Stuntman. Those were that's a real video game right there.
But now that I know about Hot Rod Tanner, is that what his name is? Like, I'm more interested now.
There's a piece of culture missing from my my personal encyclopedia that I need to add to it, and that is Hot Rod Tanner himself. Yeah, the Wheelman. I also should play. Was one of those with Vin Diesel? Was Vin Diesel in the video game The Wheelman, or am I making that up? I can't keep these things straight anymore. Do you think that there's appetite for a return to Driver, the video game series? I could kind of see it just because so many of these other companies have like left open or have like left the open world gaming genre because they're so afraid of Grand Theft Auto. Maybe Driver could be like, hey, no, we're going to do that. We're going to do it slightly different with a different tone again. And maybe that could hit now. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm not against them dipping a toe in the open world driving and mayhem market because, as you say, tonally, it is different from my understanding. And again, I'm not a Driver player per se. I think that competition is good. You know what I mean? Like, competition is good. It would be nice if they were like, you know what? We are going to make Driver, we're going to keep it being tonally different from a GTA. We're going to just live the adventures of Hot Rod Tanner and family. You get a Corona sponsorship. You send a car to space. Just go full Fast and the Furious on it.
Yep. You help Danny Tanner clean up the house. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God.
His brother, of course.
Yeah.
I would love that crossover. Let's see that happen in the video game. I think that there's come in with a different tone, and someone in chat mentioned why they like Driver so much, and was like there was a apparently good plot, but also the realistic car handling. And I'm like, I think that would work even better today. I think there's more of an audience today of sickos who are like, yeah, give me Grand Theft Auto, but very realistic. I want to check that out. And I think
get your Gran Turismo
version of GTA. Yeah, exactly. So I could, and like maybe even you are the driver, so it's like it's your job to make sure that the car is ready and doing all the stuff. I'm sure a lot of this stuff was in Driver. Again, I never played that much of it, but it's like I could see that totally working as being like the sim version of GTA now. But it's Ubisoft, so I don't necessarily know that they'll go in that direction. They will probably try to make it like a Assassin's Creed with cars.
Yeah, I was gonna say they
drive
should
up
make
a tower.
18 more Assassin's Creed names. Yeah, you have to drive up a tower, sync with your bird, but your bird's a drone.
Yeah. Your bird is the Firebird symbol from the front of that car. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, go for it. I'm not against it. I kind of like right now after talking about it, curious. I'm like, I should go back and try Driver 2 and then try some of the other Driver games because I'm interested. Sticking with Ubisoft tests cardboard packaging. This is also from Stephen Totillo at GameFile. What's old is new, as Ubisoft's annual report shows that it is exploring using cardboard packaging for the physical release of its games. That's explained in a section about Ubisoft's efforts to address climate change and decrease its carbon footprint. In 2023, cardboard packaging was developed for the physical PC edition of Skull and Bones. This cardboard version halves the emissions linked to the manufacture of the box compared with the plastic version. The first development is part of a drive to explore eco-design possibilities and help reduce the use of plastic. Also, it probably costs less. Although, those plastic cases are probably pennies, but cardboard
so cheap.
Even less. I don't know if people saw this. It's almost like a not necessarily like the old PC games that would come in like a big cardboard box. I think this is almost just like a fold in half like pamphlet sort of thing with the disc inside there, and it makes
like you get screeners in, for if you're a member of a union and they send you screeners that have been nominated for awards.
I wonder if and they're testing it, and they're testing it with the PC version, so almost no one would have seen this because who's buying a fucking physical version of Skull and Bones? Show me that person. I need to know who that person is.
Who's buying Skull and Bones at all?
Exactly, and let alone the physical version on PC. But I gotta meet that person if they're out there. The implication here, though, is this could replace their physical cases for all their games going forward. And I wonder how like collectors feel about that, because I think part of the collection thing is like, hey, I want to have something that like feels like the thing I've always had, and I want to put it right on the shelf next to all my other games, and I want it to feel a part of that collection. And having different cases that are cheaper and lighter and cardboard and thinner. I wonder if that turns some people off, or if they're like, listen, we get it, we understand what's happening with physical games. Can we? If you're switching this, does this mean you're going to stick with physical games and I'll just take whatever you can give me? I don't know. How do you think it's happening?
It is interesting because in the physical game buying market, you do have both types of people. You have the people that are buying it because they are collectors, and you have the people who are buying it because they are just physical media stans. And I know a lot of people who, not a lot, but I do have a handful of friends who are like that. Certainly when it comes to film and like, getting television series box sets on Blu-ray or whatever the case may be, because, and with good reason. I mean, we've seen instances of, this streamer has been bought by this company, so they no longer have the rights to things that you had previously purchased.
Right.
So I totally get it. Gaming's a different market. So I wonder if amongst gamers, there are still a lot of people that are just getting physical games because they're physical media people. I think you're going to have more people that are part of the collector's market. And the way that these, if I'm understanding how this cardboard packaging is, they're these flat envelopes.
Yes.
So it's not like you can, fill up a shelf with them and have that kind of display. Now, from the point of view of if you wanted to have it on display in the background of something that needed to be, on camera, if you put it forward and it's cardboard, so much better than that plastic casing, which will give you a glare and this won't. But are they shooting themselves in the foot in terms of sales on physical releases because they are alienating the collector's market? And are there people that are buying stuff more for the collection aspect than the I'm playing it aspect?
Yeah.
Now, I'm really in support of this because this should have happened a long, long time ago.
Yeah. I think
it's so much better for the planet.
Yes. And I do think that they can make these cardboard boxes much more sturdy than they've been in the past. I mean, the N64 boxes, those things basically disintegrated the day you got them. They would just fall, like you would look at them wrong.
McDonald's hamburger case, basically.
Yeah, if that. And it was like they would just instantly fall apart. Which is why I think it makes collecting, like Dan does, complete in box collecting for N64, and I think that's been pretty challenging for that reason. These look like those, the shiny plastic, and I'm showing it on stream right now if anyone listening wants to check it out. This looks like that shiny plastic. I had a pirate, Sid Meier's Pirates. I think it probably came in the big one, but the way that they actually held the disc inside of that big box was a folding cardboard and that shiny cardboard, and that thing is I still have that somewhere, and it's mostly intact. I think basically the spine shows some wear and tear, and that'll be the biggest point of concern. But also, if you are the sicko collector, get your own box. Like, go just source your own jewel case or your own cases, not jewel cases anymore. Put in your own cover art and all that stuff. I guess that maybe defeats the point of collecting, but I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it shouldn't. That could be fun too. Either way, you're right. This seems like the plastic we were using seemed pretty wasteful. We don't need to use that. And of course, Ubisoft is likely going to save some money by doing this as well, which may encourage them to keep doing physical games, which is what a lot of people want. All right. Concord's beta weekend has been extended. This is from Andy Robinson at VGC. PlayStation has extended the Concord beta early access weekend until later today. I think if you're listening to this live right now, I think you're going to have about 3 hours left to play it today. I think it'll end this afternoon yes. See, the beta will run till 12 p.m. Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern. That's 9 p.m. Central European Standard Time, or summertime. Yes, Central European summertime. And that's today that it'll come to an end. Did you get a chance to play Concord? Did you see anyone playing it on stream or anything like that?
No, I was playing Immortality all weekend with Gabe. We're in our FMV era.
Hell yeah. It's a fun one.
It's so good.
It's really good. I enjoyed mostly it was that point of discovery of like, oh, I can do this.
Oh my god.
That
it's
ruled.
like I went into it only knowing that people really liked it, and I was like, well, okay, we wanted to play something light together. And it's so good.
Yep. So we played some on Friday, and I meant to play more, but I didn't. Maybe I'll play some like right after this, so I can talk about it more on Bombcast. It's the kind of thing where I think I enjoyed myself enough, but I also am not. I think I said I wasn't stirred by it on Bombcast for Vengeance. Yeah, it wasn't like too moved by what I played, but I think they made something that's decently solid, and they're definitely going to be better served by having people play it than the trailer they put out. So I get why they keep like opening it up and extending these things. But I also don't necessarily know that they're not winning over the whole world. They're definitely getting a lot of people are like, hey, this is more fun than I thought it would be. And then there's a lot of people who are like, I'm good. I don't need to play this. So, but what choice do they have? They like have to like get it out there and try their best to like the people they can win them over. I don't know. Have you heard buzz about Concord? You have people in your life that are talking about it? Because
no.
I think they were hoping. Yeah, I think they were hoping for some more word of mouth, and it's just not coming down. Well, there's an open beta next weekend. Do you think you'll check that out?
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you just need the real Guardians of the Galaxy, right? You don't need these imitators. Yeah. Absolutely.
The Guardians of the Galaxy game was pretty fun, actually.
That was good. Yes, I love that Guardians of the Galaxy game. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like at this point I'm like, good luck. Yeah. I don't know. I don't necessarily feel like paying much attention myself with this game. So hey, do what you got to do. But yeah, this does not feel like it's going to be a Helldivers 2 situation, right? This does not feel like it's going to take over the world.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well,
everyone I know is playing Chained Together, so
yeah. No, that's a real game too. God, we should do more Chained Together. I should just like call up Jan to like, get on the computer right now in Japan. go to an internet cafe.
Go to an internet cafe
in the middle of the night, and we're gonna play some Chained Together. All right, final story here. PS2 emulation just took a massive step forward thanks to PCSX2 2.0. This is from Damian McFerrin at Time Extension. PS2 emulator PCSX2 has just been updated to version 2.0, bringing with it a raft of improvements. The update comes 4 years after the previous stable revision, during which time the emulator received over 6,000 changes, passed 100 million downloads, and celebrated its 20th anniversary. This update includes a new UI design, the assimilation of plugins, simplified configuration files, automatic game fixes, per game settings, big picture mode, improved translation support, and vastly enhanced compatibility. There's also fast mem, EE, and VU recompiler optimization, Vulkan support, better sound, improved controller mapping, and retro achievements, as well as much, much more. PCSX2 was already a really good emulator. If you've been like downloading the nightly builds, a lot of this should be in there already. But a lot of people just go with that stable build and stick with that, and they're about to get a lot of improvements with this 2.0 version. So very exciting. And I can't recommend emulation enough. People always talk about Dolphin. PCSX2 has been out there as well, kicking butt, and it's very good. I actually reinstalled PCSX2 this past weekend because I was like, oh, there's some games I want to check out, and now I'm like, man, I didn't want to do the thing that Dan did, where I think he's going to get one like a hard drive or something for his PS2 and just have all the games on there. And I'm like, I definitely could do that, but then that would lead me down the road of getting a retro tink and maybe a bunch of other, and then that would lead me to get all the other hardware that I don't have and get that plugged into the retro tink, and then I'd have to mod each one of those consoles or get the appropriate like special memory card that enables you to play games off the SD. I could just see myself going down that route so hard, and Dan saying join us. I want to, I just don't have the money. So instead, I re-downloaded PCSX2, and then they announced this, and that's very exciting. It's a very good emulator.
My brother still has all of our PlayStation memory cards. When they were cleaning out my parents' house, my brother came across the memory cards and went. This was when my parents were retiring and moving to Arizona. He was like, I just couldn't quite bring myself to throw our memory cards away.
You can back that stuff up. I think there's like ways to like save that in the cloud now. You get a Dex drive or something.
I would be so curious to know they are labeled. Like we had one memory card that was just for Saga Frontier, which is they've re-released it on Switch and stuff. It's not as obscure as it once maybe was. But yeah, it's wild. Oh yeah, somebody in chat my PS1 memory cards with Lunar stickers on them. Yep, definitely would find some Lunar files on there. But anyway, as far as emulation goes, I gotta get back in the emulation game. I was a big emulator player on PC as a young person because we never had a Super Nintendo. We had a Sega Genesis. And then we had some friend that brought us a disc that was just full of SNES games.
Yeah.
So like that was how I played, like Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past for the first time, was like on a PC emulating it, so.
True for a lot of people. Yep. Absolutely. Yep. Early on, Super Nintendo emulation, NES and Super Nintendo emulation was just massive. And then the N64 actually got one pretty early as well. PCSX2 2.0 will be out, and then obviously stuff like the big picture mode should improve how it works on things like the Steam Deck. So very excited. I'm going to mess around with this. Maybe we'll do some PlayStation 2 stuff on the site this week, and maybe we can mess around with this a little bit as part of that.
Boot up the bouncer.
Yeah, I'll play the bouncer while Jan's not here. Yes, that's actually a great idea, because then it will make Jan jealous, and that's what we try to do when people take time off here. All right, let's see here. I got a poll question from last week that we are going to get to right now. There it is. Are you going to play the Concord beta? Let's see if you have anyone joining at you, Emma. 87% said no.
Yes, 87% of people know what's up.
13% said yes, which is going to make it more challenging for the next poll question, where I'm going to ask what they thought about Concord beta. But hey, I think part of this is this was the technically closed beta. So it was like a little bit more challenging to get in there, even though they opened up to anyone PS Plus. But really what's happening here, I think, is people just don't seem to be in the mood for this game. People are just not in the mood for it. Yeah, what can they do about that? I don't know if there's much they can other than put it out and hope that word of mouth sort of just steamrolls people into there. I don't know. All right, I got a new poll question here in a moment, but before we get to that, Emma Fife, why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet, what you have going on, and all that good stuff?
Well, yes, I am at Emma Fife on Instagram, also technically on Twitter, but I don't use Twitter anymore, and my life is a lot better for it.
I was getting a lot of great information on there this week.
You were getting good info on Twitter? Yeah.
It was just a real good source of calm, collected information.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I'm sure it was all very
fuck
rational.
It, I'm not saying anything, Chantowski. I'm all gum.
But what I would like to say is to make sure that y'all head on over to GameSpot if you're not watching on the GameSpot YouTube at 9 a.m. Pacific time today. We're dropping a new episode of Star Players. It is the end of our first block of 4 episodes, and our guest is Steve-O.
Yeah, let's go.
And he was so delightful. I directed all 4 episodes of this first collection of episodes of Star Players, and so please check those out. We have episodes out with Monet Exchange, with Dominic Monaghan, with Aisha Tyler, and Steve-O will complete the set. And he was really, really fun. He's great. Just a really cool, open, honest he's great. So I hope that y'all will check that out and enjoy. And he has great stories about how he really doesn't recall making the Jackass video game.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, yeah, I can't wait to hear this. Looks like a lot of fun. The episodes have been a lot of fun. So
yeah, thanks.
Great work all around. I'm over here being oh man, this week's voicemail dump truck's going to be fraught. I'm going to have to be careful. We have to be very careful this week, everybody. All right, let's see. New poll question. If you played the Concord beta, how would you rate your time with it out of 5 stars? And we'll have the 5-star options there. I think you can have more than, if you can't do more than 5 on YouTube is the one I think you can do more than 4 options on there. So yeah, out of 5 stars, go ahead and rate that. We'll get the results and discuss it on Game Mess Mornings on Wednesday here on Giant Bomb. Speaking of Giant Bomb, tomorrow, tomorrow is Bombcast. Jan's out, Bacalar's out. I guess I'm gonna have to host this show. So tune in for that train wreck, everybody. It's gonna be a good time. And then Wednesday, Blight Club should return. Daikatana, yeah. Yeah, I guess it's back. Jesus Christ. What? I was right at the end, though, right, Dan? I was right at the end. I was at the last boss. So if I had my save ready to go where I was at the last boss and I just fired the gun and the game was over, we would be able to just move on, right? And that's not cheating. Daikatana, look forward to that, I suppose, because I'm not. Game Mess Mornings will return for the rest of the week, starting on Wednesday, of course. But the dump truck will happen on Thursday. Bombcast Revengeance on Friday. We'll probably also get UPF going. We'll figure it all out. It's going to be somewhat of a lighter week, but we'll hit most of the big things for you, everybody. Do our best on that. All right, Emma, thank you so much for spending today talking with me about video games. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Anytime when I don't have conflicts.
Hey, we appreciate it. Anytime you can make it happen, we love it. Real quick, here's a correction from Will. College football early access is today at 4 p.m. Eastern. And that's,
dang.
I'll probably listen. I don't know. I might be back. Maybe we'll play some today then on the site. Maybe it depends on how much time I have during getting back from taking the kid to therapy. We'll see. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. You are the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.